Welcome back. Senate confirmation hearings continue this morning for President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett. She faced tough questions from Democrats yesterday who've tried to portray her nomination as a potential threat to health care, abortion rights, and more. In one notable moment, she was asked about whether the president could delay the upcoming election, an idea that President Trump floated earlier this year. Watch.
Does the Constitution give the President of the United States the authority to unilaterally delay a general election under any circumstances? Does federal law?
Well, Senator, if that question ever came before me, I would need to hear arguments from the litigants and read briefs and consult with my law clerks and talk to my colleagues and go through the opinion writing process. So, if I give off-the-cuff answers, then I would be basically a legal pundit. And I don't think we want judges to be legal pundits. I think we want judges to approach cases thoughtfully and with an open mind.
Do you believe that every president should make a commitment unequivocally and resolutely to the peaceful transfer of power?
Well, Senator, that seems to me to be pulling me in a little bit into this question of whether the president has said that he would not peacefully leave office. And so to the extent that this is a political controversy right now, as a judge, I want to stay out of it.
Stay out of it. Barrett was also pressed on abortion rights yesterday. She told the Senate Judiciary Committee that the landmark Roe v. Wade case, which legalized abortion nationwide, should not be categorized as a quote-unquote super precedent.
Is Roe a super precedent?
How would you define super precedent? I'm answering a lot of questions about Roe, which I think indicates that Roe doesn't fall in that category.
You said that Brown is, and I know my time is running out, is a super precedent. That's something the Supreme Court has not even said, but you have said that. So if you say that, why won't you say that about Roe v. Wade?
As Richard Fallon from Harvard said, Roe is not a super precedent because calls for its overruling have never ceased, but that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled. It just means that it doesn't fall on the small handful of cases like Marbury versus Madison and Brown versus the board that no one questions anymore.
Barrett would not say how she would rule on Roe versus Wade if she were presented with a challenge to the case, but she has suggested that Roe was wrongly decided in the past. Joining us now, MSNBC legal analyst Danny Cevallos. Danny, good morning. It is great to see you this morning. I actually want to start with what we heard in the beginning there, those political questions about the election, delaying the election, and the transfer of power. Can you walk us through exactly what it is that sets the timing of the election, the laws that we have? My colleague Pete Williams yesterday called this a potentially overly cautious answer from her. And that is, of course, understated, as Pete often is. But I think a lot of us were surprised she wasn't willing to go farther, considering what the law actually says on this topic.
As is often the case, Pete Williams is exactly right. The Constitution provides for the exact day of the presidential election. And had the question been asked another way, I think Judge Barrett could have answered it. If the question were, what does the Constitution say about the day of the presidential election? Judge Barrett could have answered that, I believe. But asking about things like the peaceful transfer of power, being more vague as a question, or whether or not the president can extend the election date, those are issues that arguably can and will come before Judge Barrett. And maybe we'll never know the truth, but Judge Barrett probably secretly resents the fact that the president has put her in this position where she has to answer that question or choose not to answer the question. But look, in an abundance of caution, the super careful approach for Judge Barrett was to say, well, this is an issue that may come before me. But certainly the strongest argument for questions that she should have answered in that category would be that the peaceful transfer of power and whether or not voter intimidation is a crime. There's a strong argument to be made that she could have answered those questions, but she chose the ultra cautious route.
Of course, she, as so many other people we've seen testify before Congress, has a critical audience of one in the White House that she has to consider, as well as the typical caution that would come with being in this particular hot seat. Let's talk about Roe versus Wade. This question about whether it's a quote unquote super precedent. What's the legal reasoning there? And she, I know, has defined super precedent in the past as essentially saying something that's so settled that people don't even want or think that it should be overturned.
Yeah, this super precedent is a term of academic creation. It doesn't have the same legal significance as, say, stare decisis or even the word precedent itself. And some context is required. Judge Barrett, when she used super precedent, was responding to a list that other academics had prepared and come up with this term super duper precedent or super precedent. Pete Williams talked yesterday about there is actually a super duper precedent, believe it or not. But those are academic constructs. And Judge Barrett, it's true, apparently. But Judge Barrett was responding to another academic's list of what those academics thought were super precedent. And that's why you had that awkward exchange of Judge Barrett saying, well, it depends what you mean by super precedent, because it does have different definitions, because it isn't a strict legal concept. It's more of an academic smoke-filled coffeehouse discussion concept. And so that was the reason for that back and forth with Senator Klobuchar. But the bottom line is, to say whether or not Roe is on a list of super precedent, you do need to define what your operative meaning is of super precedent, given that it's not really something that exists in stare decisis or judicial review.
I would like to know which legal professor's third grader came up with the term super duper precedent, because I have to think that it was someone in that age range. Okay, we'll give credit to Pete for that. Danny Cevallos, thank you very much, my friend. It's great to see you this morning. Hope to see you again soon.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.